This is Jesus Kaufman Chair. We're just going to address all the Catholics and Protestants today, and Kaufman will address the rest of the people who follow for the showbiz world. Let me just hang this down a little more. All right. Probably doesn't make a difference, but nonetheless, the topics going to go over, you can check down in the description. There's various topics that you can decide if you want to engage and talk about. But we're going to just talk about those few things that I've listed. Well, you guys where'd he go last week? Actually, probably none of you really care because that's the way no one really cares where Lord God sends people out to different places. But I took a road trip last week, we'll just say. There's a few places I visited. I visited small towns where there's a home for family entertainment, it seems like. But it's getting perverted over the years, and it's no longer the whole place is kind of just getting falling apart, it seems like. No one's sticking together as their little core group, except for their little tiny core groups, and everyone's just isolated and separated from themselves. And this is what the companies and corporations used to be when they're supposed to be family orientated. When they used to be family orientated, and the places that used to be our family orientated are just getting shut down little by these big corporations. And this is they're still trying to proclaim that they're the heartland, and they still trying to proclaim that they got the heart of these old timers that are being shut down by them. So it doesn't really make any sense. They should be changing their names, but instead they want to try and keep the names and keep the false identity up. And that's where it goes to these Christians and Protestant organizations, because a lot of them down there is basically Christians or Protestants, and mainly Protestants I see. And here's a little example. They're wearing shirts saying, "We're here to serve." You know who they're serving? They're serving a corporation. No offense to the corporate. I'm not even going to mention the corporation because it's a good little restaurant branch, but they're serving a corporation. They're in there serving and helping build up the company value in the place rather than serving people out in the streets. And that's the situation that they're falling victims of. And then you got this other this church that we'll say, I know exactly, the Methodist church over there, that organization, and they got a little thrift store in their on their property. They're advertising thrift store on their property and stuff like that. So this is where they want to talk about they're serving God, but yet they're charging money and creating a business in their little thrift store rather than just giving it out and giving it away. Because of course, when you actually have to help people, it costs you. There's a sacrifice in this situation, and that's where if they want to do this donation program where people donate clothes and stuff to them, then they should be just giving away. They shouldn't have no thrift store trying to sell it or any of the items. And that's where there's just this little heartland is no longer a heart land. They have no heart, and this little small town is supposed to be family orientated, and show business and entertainment is no longer becoming family orientated. There's a few places. One place I did attend that was trying to keep it still a family orientated establishment, but selling out the culture and value of their founding, the fathers and the people who actually built the ranches and the environment where they now display a show and give a show for the what the locals used to be like. So they basically trying to reenact events from the past and history, and they're trying to bring in this modern day theology into the history of the past. So they're getting a little perverted, and it starts off with when they want to try and salute people who aren't worthy to be heroes. It begins off in the very beginning of their steps rather than them acknowledge the situation that they're in and the crisis that the country's in. If they really want to proclaim that honor and proclaim the dignity that they try and claim. So because they want to proclaim this false freedom, and all these churches are praying for is evil to have understanding, that's the situation we're in. So obviously I see YouTube doesn't want to share my videos like they used to, because they used to have people popping in and out. Now it doesn't want to show, like no one wants to pop in and out. So that's all right. But I'm still talking to these, everyone out here. The decrees I state goes to everyone out here. Exactly what I say about this small town home entertainment place and this situation I've lived through and been through. So that's where I've been. I took a little road trip and this little family mortuary places. And here's some topics that we're going to discuss today. You can check out in the description, like I said. But simple fact is, we're not going to talk about my say. We're going to build onto the aspect of who they're or basically of who this small town place is given honor to, and who all these churches are praying for evil to have understanding for. So I welcome everyone here. We're discussing about the echoes of freedom due to the fact that this is a small town. I just told a story. You're gonna have to check out the live stream, but I just told a story about the experiences and where I've been over this past past week when I didn't make any videos, because I like making videos for everyone out here, because even if no one wants to hear it or see it or view it, a decree is a decree, and what's said is said, and what's spoken is spoken. And that's why what's written in the Holy Bible, I'm going to speak what's written in the Holy Bible against these devil worshiping cult bitches of the state. So everyone up here, we're talking about the echoes of freedom, because there is no freedom out here these days. And people want to talk about the American dream. What is the American dream? The American dream is nothing. The American dream used to be about thriving. Now the American dream is only about surviving. And that's your echoes of freedom. Freedom these days to you guys is kidnapping children, other people's children. Freedom these days is drugging your own kids. Freedom these days is selling them out and sacrificing your children and letting other people raise your children, rather than standing on your own two and raising your children of your own the way you want it, the way your faith and belief system from the past heritage comes from, and not what this new modern day theology brings. So freedom is making policies that violates law. That's your freedom these days. So this echo of freedom these days, liberty is nothing but a company and a car insurance company. That's all liberty is these days. There is no liberty out here. So all these echoes of freedom everyone wants to talk about, you have none. You've gave up your rights. You gave up everything. And that's why people don't want to stand up these days, and that's why they want to diminish my case, and that's why everyone wants to allow YouTube to just pick what they get to watch, and they don't want to share these the truth of the situations out here. All right, so I appreciate that, Kelsey, but I'm going to continue on. But freedom. There's another freedom. Freedom is merging the state with the church, and then telling everyone they have to go to learn this program and this monoculture theology and belief system, and then try and call it a diverse belief and diverse thought process. That's freedom to you. Freedom is a monoculture reality, whereas a state church everyone falls after. And you want people. Freedom is talking about they want to be not having a one real church, but yet then freedom is supporting this one real church that's called the state licitism, or we can call state olatry is another way to Latin terminology can bring it up as. Basically faith system that's built on here's the faith system built entirely around the legal or what's legally and what's socially permitted and accepted in this day and age, or to be accepted to get away with. That's licitism. The faith or system built entirely around what is legally or socially permissible to get away with. And that's your monoculture, and that's what everyone wants to follow after these days. And and they want to claim it's Christianity. It's no Christianity. They put these labels, and everyone on. Like I said, freedom these days is labeling your own children and then drugging them, because you don't want to let them have the freedom to decide and choose what they want to do. You want them to do what you want them to do, and it's a control. Freedom is a control these days. It's just a word, another way to market the system. So I spoke on that. So also another thing I'm going to talk about. That's more the laws and the legal aspect. So does everyone have any questions about that? Because we're going to talk about other topics like histories and the history and U.S. military and other things, but people don't like what I talk about when I start talking about the U.S. military, because they want to basically kiss ass and fall after the foolish behavior of Hezekiah. Hezekiah was a king of Judah or Israel back in the day, so everyone wants to fall after this foolish Hezekiah belief system rather than enjoy their freedoms as I speak of. So what's this say? The Salt Lakers. Freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose. Freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose. Christopherson, I guess, spoke about that, or made that statement. Freedom It's just a marketing scheme. Exactly what Christopherson probably used that for. It's just a marketing scheme to publicize itself and make itself look good. Just like the Liberty insurance company is basically just a way to make their sales marketing scheme and make their sales look good. So I'm not big and fond on people's labels unless the people's actually died for what their words and what they mean for. So did Chris Christopherson die for his words of freedom? Because if he didn't, then his words are meaningless. His statements are fruitless. They're useless to anyone who wants to stand up and do what's right in this day and culture. So, as I said, like I said, no one's going to like when I start talking about the U.S. military, because the U.S. military is cursed. Cursed are those who keep their swords from shedding blood. Cursed are those, where is it? Anyway, cursed are those who keep their swords from shedding blood, and cursed are those leaders who basically doesn't want to do their jobs properly the way they're supposed to. And that's what's kind of a reference of the book of the Holy Bible. So, nonetheless, they don't want to talk about that U.S. military because people don't want to stand up. The U.S. military doesn't want to stand up and pull their swords out against these judicial terrorists who I speak against. Instead, they want to tell me to be quiet. They want to try and diminish what Lord Jesus Christ brought up in my life and what I had to face out in this world. Just as I faced this last week on my road trip, this little small town, the story I spoke about in the beginning of the live stream. So, I guess moving on. Anyone have any topics or discussion or any questions yet so far? About that. We can go into history topics. Does anyone want to go into history topics? I'm not going to sit here and waste my time and day. I enjoy getting out here and speaking a little bit, but I'm not going to give it all out if there's no one wants to engage on these topics. So if you don't look in the description and check out topics, you don't want to share this, I'm not going to give it all out in one live stream. I'll be back another day. So does anyone want to hear the history topics? We're going to discuss about history and basically how people want to relate to fictional characters and this fictional characters of modern day and ignore the actual historical characters. And then when they do want to join or associate themselves with a historical character, then they want to cherry pick the historical character's life to accommodate their belief system and their modern day understanding. So, like I said, are you all, that's where the understanding comes. Is evil being prayed to have understanding in these day and age? Because that's the whole topic that I'm bringing on this conclusion of the wrapping up the live stream. So, if no one wants to talk about the history and topics, about how people want to associate with these fictional characters but don't want to associate with historical characters, now I'm going to wrap this up. I'll be back another day for the live stream. Check out, let's get some subscribes and hit that notification bell so you can check me out. Share my stuff because YouTube doesn't want to share my stuff. If you stand where I stand, you just don't have a voice and don't want to speak up for your own self. And you just want to sit in the background. So let's put it that way, and I'll see you next video.